So, hello and welcome to Breathing Space for today, which is the 11th of January. And I'm going to begin today with reading a quote from the monks that are continuing the Walk for Peace from Fort Worth in Texas through to Washington, D.C. in the States. And this particular post comes from the 9th of January. And I think it ties in quite nicely with our kind of theme that we've started with in the new year. Last week, we were just asking the question of how we can set intentions for the new year rather than setting resolutions. The idea that day by day you can tune into how you are, and through that, maybe recognize anything that requires cultivation, but also anything we can let go of, and that might then help you to set an intention for something to explore. What are the ways that I can cultivate what I need in life, and what are the ways that I can let go of what is a burden or what is depleting me in life, and to explore those as questions, as an adventure, rather than as resolutions or goals that have a success or a failure. So then we just live those questions as we go through the following days and weeks and months, and do a bit of journaling around them and see what emerges. It's a slow process of self-discovery and growth. And that ties in with this quote that I was reading from the Walk for Peace on the 9th of January. So I'm just going to read that. It's on my other screen. So I'm going to be looking that way for a few minutes while I read it. Some people may ask, how can I stay peaceful when difficult situations arise? We must begin by understanding we are where we are. Situations happen, often without warning, often beyond our control. We cannot always prevent or change them. But here is what we can control: the way that we respond. When difficulty arises, our minds rush forward, overthinking, catastrophizing, creating stories about how terrible things are. We make situations heavier by adding layers of worry and fear on top of what is already challenging. But if we pause, if we become mindful of our breath in that moment, if we notice our thoughts without getting swept away, something shifts. The situation doesn't disappear, but we stop making it worse. We create space for clarity, and in that clarity, we can see what we should actually do to help the situation, instead of just worrying and feeling defeated. In that mindful pause, we might also remember something we've forgotten. Right now, countless conditions are still nourishing our life. We are alive. We can breathe. We can eat. We can walk. These are profound gifts, genuine happiness, but we rarely see them because our minds are too busy racing towards worry, too consumed by what's wrong to notice what remains right. This is what mindfulness offers in difficult moments. Not power to control what happens, but wisdom to see clearly what helpful action we can take, to breathe consciously, to remember that even in difficulty, we are still held by life, still capable of responding wisely instead of simply reacting. The situation is what it is, but we can change how we meet it, with presence instead of panic, with clarity instead of confusion, with wise action instead of helpless worry. Peace in difficult times doesn't mean nothing bothering us. It means we stop making everything worse by losing ourselves in our thoughts. It means we stay grounded enough to see what we can actually do and then do it with a calm heart. So maybe we could just hold those words not so much in mind, but just in presence. Allow them to drop in to today's meditation in whatever way they might. And we're going to do our usual, which is a guided meditation on the breath, the body, feelings, and thoughts, and a way of connecting to how we are right now, what is current in our own lives today, this week, this moment, and then some time at the end for some reflection around how we meet the moment, um, what is good in our life that we can cultivate an awareness of, and look for opportunities to be aware already of all the ways that life is beautiful and miraculous and all the things we can be grateful for. And if there are things that are challenging, perhaps a bit of reflection on how we can put those into perspective, get a little bit of space around them, see what attitudes we can cultivate to build a more resilient way of navigating those difficulties, and to remember also what we might let go of as well to lighten the burden. And letting go might be of patterns of thinking or overthinking, catastrophizing, creating stories. And that might open up space for opportunity to see things in a new way, creative ways of meeting things. And this is kind of summed up in one phrase that's often shared by John Kabat-Zinn, who mentions in his book Full Catastrophe Living and other publications the story which culminates in the phrase, "We can't stop the waves, but we can learn how to surf." So we can't stop challenging things from happening in life, but through mindfulness and mindful awareness, we can certainly find ways to navigate those difficulties and surf the waves. So just hold that in mind today while we're going through our practice. So hopefully by now you've had an opportunity to find a posture, lying down or sitting, whichever you've chosen, ensuring that there's a sense of the body being stable, supported, and dignified. And as we cultivate this mindfulness practice, what we're doing is deliberately dropping into an awareness of our present moment lived experience. And at the beginning of a meditation, this is often a transition from our normal day-to-day busyness and problem solving and planning and getting things done or distracting ourselves or whatever we're doing. And instead, we're kind of dropping into this place of just simply resting in awareness. And we can begin this just by checking in with the posture. noticing perhaps how the feet, the seat, the legs, the back, the arms, the neck, and the head are all arranged, whether you're sitting or lying, noticing how the body is supported by and connected to the chair, the mattress, the cushion beneath you. And as we come into practice, we can slow things down. Everyday life is often very rushy. In this meditation space, we can really just slow things down and begin to notice and linger with the little details. So just noticing all those places where the body is in contact with floor, chair, cushion, mat. Just taking time to be curious, to notice all the different sensations within those points of contact. If we're sitting, trying as best we can to have the feet planted with the soles in contact with the floor. And if your legs don't reach the floor, maybe finding a cushion or a yoga block to give you that sense of connection to being grounded and stable. Just feeling the contact of soles of feet with the ground. If you're lying or if you're cross-legged, being curious to which parts of the feet are in contact with that cushion or that bed beneath you, heels or the sides. Feeling that sense of being stable and supported. Whether you're sitting or lying, there's possibly parts of the legs also in contact with chair or bed. We're just checking in to see how they are, and as much as possible recognize that the legs don't have much to do right now. There's a sense of just letting go of responsibility and effort, allowing those legs to be supported by the chair, the bed, the mat. Coming up through the seat and the back. Whether lying or sitting, often this pelvic region supports a lot of weight. So we might tune into the sense of here is a place where the body's weight is supported and held and secure. The back, as best as possible, should be supported if you're lying down, cushions under the lower back perhaps. And if sitting as well, a cushion supporting the lower back might be useful. And a sense that the spine is dignified, aligned, and also relatively effortless. There's a sense of being balanced, stable, dignified, aware, connected to the body. And as we continue, we can maybe just drop words and go to this place under words where we know the body is sitting or lying simply through physical sensation. We check in with the shoulders and the arms and the hands. Sometimes coming into meditation, the shoulders can hold tension. They might be up round our ears. If so, just inviting softening around those shoulders and making sure that our arms and our hands are resting in a way that they are supported by the body. Maybe the hands are in the lap or on the thighs, or maybe they're resting by our sides. And coming to the neck and the head, finding that balance if we're sitting and making sure there's a cushion there if we're lying. So the weight of the head is supported in an effortless way. And without straining, just a gentle tucking in of the chin can allow us to align the head on the neck and get the sense of the crown of the head going up towards the sky. And then we can breathe our energy down. In the practice of Qigong, we begin by connecting to this energy that comes from the lower body, down, connected to the earth. And in meditation as well, just getting a sense that we are grounded and connected to the energy of the earth, that our weight reaches down towards the ground, and that naturally lifts our posture up. And just resting here in awareness of the body, sitting or lying. Perhaps we notice sounds in the room around us. And perhaps we notice the movement of the breathing in the body. And as best we can, hearing the sounds simply as sound. No words, no labels, just vibration or resonance or pitch, volume, rhythm, duration, intensity. And with the breathing, just simply noticing where in the body we feel that movement of in-breath and out-breath. as we sit with the breathing, with the sounds, we get to a point where the body realizes it's got nothing to do. And at that moment, often our mind switches from the doing to what's known as the workings of the default mode network: reflection, rumination, planning, evaluating. We begin to notice how busy the mind is. And sometimes also, as we try to sit here in stillness, the body is still activated. It's still in that energy of, I've got to get things done, I've got to be moving. We might notice that as a fatigue in the body or as a sense of restlessness. And sometimes at this point in meditation, people think that they're doing things wrong and they give up. But if we can just notice these things as perfectly normal, that resonance of a mind that is always working, a body that is always doing things, and how stillness allows us to notice these things in a way that we don't when we're too busy rushing around. So if possible, can we just be curious? How does it feel in the body today? So we can follow the breathing, the in-breath, the out-breath. We can listen to the sounds in the room. And we can notice when we move into thinking. And with our awareness, we then have this choice. Oh, I'm thinking. We might notice where the mind is gone, what sort of thoughts are pulling us into thinking. But then we have this choice to go, okay, the mind is thinking, but right now I'm going to come back to following just one more in breath and one more out breath, feeling that movement in my body. And maybe within a breath, the mind starts thinking again. We go, oh yeah, there's thinking again. But with this awareness, I can now choose to let the thoughts just drift on by. And I'm going to come back to feeling the movement of just one more in breath, one more out breath. And we're just going to continue that practice of breathing in awareness, noticing when the mind wanders, coming back to feeling the breathing, to hearing sounds in the room. And if you want, that could be your practice for today, just a 15-minute practice in getting grounded and connecting to the breath and disconnecting from that busy mind for a few minutes, just to give yourself a mindful pause. As they said in the reading that I began with, that is what we do when we notice we're in difficulty. Just connect to the breathing, take a mindful breath. If we pause, if we become mindful of our breath in that moment, if we notice our thoughts without getting swept away, something shifts. The situation doesn't disappear, but we stop making it worse. We create space for clarity, and in that clarity, we can see what we should actually do to help the situation. Well, I'm not asking you to solve the world's problems in this meditation right now, but by reconnecting to the breathing, it gives us a place of stability, of connection to our own lived experience, and we begin to connect with what is real in this moment, the in-breath, the out-breath, and how we feel it in the body. It gives us just a moment to stabilize, to pause, to create some space. We might even just be curious about how the breathing feels in the body, because sometimes when we're agitated or worried or angry, that changes the way the body breathes. So rather than getting caught up in the thinking of what's happening, find out how it's lived in the body and the breathing. Oh, short breathing, deep breathing, rapid breathing, slow breathing. If we find that it's difficult to be with that sensation in the body of being agitated or angry or tired, afraid, we can maybe meditate with our eyes open instead of closed, but keep the gaze softened and lowered. And it allows us to find maybe a point on the floor in front of us or a point on the wall that allows us to anchor our attention without going too deeply or intensely into what can sometimes be very powerful reactions to things. So always taking care, doing what we call titrating just little drops of our experience, see what we can cope with, and if anything gets too intense, just take a step back, open the eyes, but stay with the breathing, the in-breath and the out-breath. Notice this, as they say in the thing, notice what's nourishing our life right now. We're alive, we can breathe, we can eat, we can walk. And these in themselves are profound gifts, genuine happiness. Gives us perspective and balance. So around that breathing, you might feel also sensations in the body. And depending on how we're feeling, depending on our circumstances, the body will react. If we're agitated or afraid, angry, if we're tired, if we're afraid, we might notice this in the body. So before we go rushing into how to voice our anger or take action, first of all, let's just connect to how this experience is lived within ourselves. Feel into the body. Notice if there's anywhere in the body that feels particularly resonant with how we're feeling. This can be in the wiggling of toes. Sometimes when I'm restless, I'll notice I'm wiggling my toes inside my shoes, or that I'm fiddling with my fingers, kind of nervous energy. Sometimes we can suddenly be aware in meditation that we're still doing this. Or there might be a tension, a holding, a bracing in the muscles of the legs or the torso, shoulders, the neck, the jaw. Or if this is the product, this difficulty is a product of some long-term stress, we might feel it as a weariness, a fatigue, a heaviness. There might be a real impulse to move, to fidget. It's really difficult to stay still. Or maybe today the body feels quite relaxed and soft and eased. And we can explore how that feels too. Two particular places to tune into are the gut and the tongue within the jaw. If we're in a state of agitation, often the gut will feel tight, and the tongue and the jaw will also be tense. If we can relax the tongue and the mouth, and also invite a sense of letting go of relaxation into the gut, the belly. Just notice what happens. It might not change anything. It's what we're not here to change things. Although it is a way of trying to reset your vagus nerve, but it might not. or it might be easy, but so just try it and see what happens as an experiment, a curiosity to explore. You can check in with the energy in your chest. Often our emotions are felt around the heart, the chest, in the breathing, but also in a real sense of warmth or heaviness or agitation within the heart space. Just checking in with your heart space right now, seeing what's going on. And another way to connect to our lived experience is just to check the temperature on the skin, perhaps in different parts of the body, the face, the arms, the torso, the legs, the feet, the hands. And if you're still with us, if you're still in the practice, just making a mental note that what is here, but right now we have no action required. We're just connecting to how this experience lives in the body. A time of connecting to self, wisdom, stability, clarity. Just taking this hour of practice to meet the moment in a mindful way. A pause, an opportunity to step out of the world of action and reaction and just rest in awareness of how our lived experience feels in the body, moment by moment. And of course, we might notice things that we say, oh, I like this. Or maybe things you say, oh, I really don't like this. If so, our practice is simply to notice where and how these things are felt in the body. The things that we like and the things that we don't like. The things that feel comfortable, the things that feel uncomfortable. Seeing if we can just maintain this balanced curiosity, this mindful awareness of these physical sensations. Like they say in the thing I read at the beginning, how do we stay peaceful in our practice while we're exploring difficult sensations in the body or a difficult energy, a restless energy, an angry energy, a fearful energy, a frustrated energy? And as they say in the reading, we must begin by understanding that we are where we are, that situations happen, often without warning, often beyond our control, and we cannot prevent or change them. But what we can control is the way that we respond. When difficulty arises, our minds rush forwards, overthinking, catastrophizing, creating stories about how terrible things are. We make situations heavier by adding layers of worry and fear on top of what is already challenging. But if we pause, if we become mindful of our breath in that moment, if we notice thoughts without getting swept away, something shifts. Mark Williams, in his book Finding Peace in a Frantic World, talks about this quite a lot. About just sitting with what's in the body and just noticing what he calls the feeling tone: pleasant, unpleasant, sense of ease, a sense of discomfort. But then he says, put it on the workbench of the mind and just be curious about it. There's no action required right now. Just take time to feel, to notice, to recognize what's going on in the body. And around that, we could then move also into an awareness of the emotions, the thoughts that are resonating with this physical body. But again, from a distance, so we could maybe do what they call name it to tame it. We can do this with physical sensations. Go, oh, tingling, or tension, or aching, or pulsing, heat or cold. We can notice if a sensation is deep or superficial, if it's in a specific place or generalized. And we can do the same with our emotions. Just begin to notice that sometimes we can have many different emotions flowing at the same time on different levels. And as we tune into the body, we might notice the physical sensations that go with anger or fear or frustration. We just maybe give it a label and then go back to noticing the sensations underneath that label, getting to know our experience through embodied awareness. And whatever's coming up, difficult or easy, again, we can just notice, oh, yeah, this is a difficult emotion, or this is a pleasant emotion. With Mark Williams, we can put those on the workbench of the mind as well. And then just sit with them, no action required. This is what anger feels like. Let's be curious, go into the details, the noticing of it, the knowing of it. This is what frustration feels like, or this is what contentment feels like. This is what tiredness feels like, or whatever you're feeling. But we could also say, well, how? How does it feel in the body right now? What's my present moment lived experience of being angry, of being afraid, of being tired? Moment by moment, lived experience. Whatever emotions you are experiencing, as they say in this reading that I began with, in this mindful pause, we might also remember something that we've forgotten. Right now, countless conditions are still nourishing us, nourishing our life. We're alive. We can breathe. We can eat. We can walk. These are profound gifts, genuine happiness. This is what mindfulness offers in difficult moments, not power to control what happens, but wisdom to see clearly what helpful action we can take. And as they continue, we're not meaning the sort of action where we go diving into doing something, but the action of taking a breath consciously and remembering that even in difficulty, we are still held by life and still capable of responding wisely instead of simply reacting. And peace in difficult times doesn't mean nothing bothers us. It means we stop making everything worse by losing ourselves in our thoughts. It means we stay grounded enough to see what we can actually do and then do it with a calm heart. But before we get to the doing, let's just be with the sitting with our thoughts. Without losing ourselves in our thoughts. But we can't stop the mind from thinking. I'm sure as we've done this meditation, if we've sit here in this Zoom, you've drifted in and out of hearing my voice, falling asleep, waking up, drifting off into thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be feeling my breath, come back to my breath. Oh, I'm thinking again. What's she saying now? Oh, yeah, she's saying something about feeling the gut. Okay, I'll feel my gut. Ah, I'm off to thinking again. What am I supposed to be doing now? Oh, yeah, something to do with my tongue. And that's generally the way a meditation goes. But in those little moments when we are aware and in the present moment, now we can deliberately turn our mindful awareness towards those thoughts, the ones that keep pulling us away. But if we can, stay with the breathing and the body in the chair as an anchor, just like a boat anchored on the sea. And from this position, we can then observe our thoughts. And analogies, I've said sometimes visualization, it's a little bit like watching bees in a beehive. It's like watching cars on the road or like watching clouds in the sky. So we can observe our thoughts, the nature of our thinking, without getting caught up in the thinking. Just notice an angry thought, even just give it a label like, oh yeah, there's a planning, there's a rumination, there's a worry, there's a catastrophizing, there's a jumping ahead into all the things that could possibly go wrong. There's a looking for revenge, there's a looking to fix things. Just notice all the different ways that our human mind responds to difficulty. But again, put those thoughts on the workbench of the mind and just observe them as if you were curious, as if you were just carrying out a study of where does the mind go and how does the mind respond to difficult times. And then just observe. We don't need to follow the thoughts or act on them or judge them. We don't have to say that we like certain thoughts or don't like others, although I'm sure we will. Either way, just allow them to flow. Notice them. The good thoughts, the difficult thoughts, the easy thoughts, the unpleasant thoughts. Just noticing, observing. And remember, we're not doing this to try and judge ourselves or fix ourselves or be a better person or, you know, let those thoughts flow authentically. When we're hurt, when we're angry, when we're afraid, the mind can go to places that it needs to go to explore how we feel. As best we can, just allow that to happen. Remember, we don't need to act on those thoughts, but it's certainly useful to know what's there in our mind. With kindness, with acceptance. There's this mind doing its best, even if it's not very skillful today. At least it's doing its best to try and find a solution, to fix a problem, even if it's turning to things like blame or shame or thoughts that you might not like very much, that are difficult to experience. We can at least hold in kindness that the mind is trying its best to look out for our well-being, to protect us. So for the last 10 minutes or so of today's practice, you could either continue just to rest in an awareness of the breathing, the body, the feelings and the thoughts, or if you prefer, just take 10 minutes to just rest in mindful reflection. What is the wise way to navigate this difficulty, this challenge that we're facing? We can change how we meet things with presence instead of panic, with clarity instead of confusion, with wise action instead of helpless worry. Peace in difficult times doesn't mean nothing bothers us. It means we stop making everything worse by losing ourselves in our thoughts. It means we stay grounded enough to see what we can actually do and then do it with a calm heart. So maybe just taking some time to tune into your experience, your emotions, your thoughts. And first of all, just turn towards yourself and say, what requires a little bit of compassion here? What requires a little bit of tender care? What requires a little bit of love or compassion? And see if there are any needs underneath those feelings, a need for particular value or a particular way of being, a particular connection, a particular understanding, a particular shift or change, but more towards a certain value or intention rather than action. What needs cultivating and what needs letting go of. So that can be our reflection as we finish with some silent practice. You could maybe do some journaling, some doodling, or just rest in awareness. And if you find that you're now turning to problem solving, to action, to strategizing, see if we can return this back to just sitting in mindful awareness of the values that are living within you right now, underneath your anger. Anger is an emotion that usually talks to injustice, to something that's not right. What values require cultivation to bring balance and peace once again to that anger? Rather than strategies, see if we can look for intentions, for values, for needs. Frustration is often because there is a need that's not being met or a voice that's not being heard. So, how can we cultivate that need? How can we recognize that voice? And fear is obviously a sense that the things that we need for our own well being, for our survival, are lacking. What would security feel like right now? What can we connect to that gives us a sense of safety, even if it's just knowing that right now in our practice we're safe? If you're sitting doing practice right now with us on Zoom or watching on YouTube, for this time you are safe. Right this moment, you're safe. Thich Nhat Hanh is quoted in the page of these Walk for Peace monks. And the quotation is, people say that walking on water is a miracle. But to me, walking peacefully on the earth is the real miracle. The earth is a miracle. Each step is a miracle. Taking steps on our beautiful planet can bring real happiness. Thich Nhat Hanh, the long road turns to joy, a guide to walking meditation. How can you walk through the next moments or hours or days or weeks of your life in a way that allows you to cultivate a sense of connection, of happiness, of peace, connection, compassion, softness, resilience, to feel resourced and nourished and at ease. Thich Nhat Hanh is also known for saying, peace in me, peace in the world. When we can find our own path to peace, we can find a way of finding peace in the world. And if we don't have that sense of peace, then hopefully our mindfulness gives us a way of navigating those difficulties in a way that brings balance and equilibrium and compassion. It all begins with awareness, though, just recognizing what is here, taking the time to pause and connect in a mindful way. So patience, right? We can't fix, we can't change, but we can evolve, we can grow, and that's a process that takes time and patience and practice. So we'll end our practice there for today, the formal practice, and you can maybe think of ways to continue this practice into your week ahead. Maybe do some journaling, maybe just find moments through the day to connect to joy, the color of the sky, the breath of wind, the feel of the feet on the pavement or the floor, a sip of tea, the feel of fabric on your skin, the little joys in life, a heartbeat that reminds you you're alive, a breath that reminds you that you're alive, a way of connecting to all that's important in life, but also just very simple. So we'll end there with a little wiggle of toes and fingers. It's a nice way just to bring ourselves out of that intensity of mindful practice. If you've got your eyes closed, maybe just opening them very slowly and gently, taking in the room, the world around you, and just very slowly and mindfully, finding your place in the world again. For those of us that are here on Zoom, I'm going to end the recording here so we have a chance to just reflect on today's practice. And if you're watching this again on my YouTube channel, it's always nice if you can make a little comment or like or subscribe. If you like this meditation, you want more, we're here every Sunday in the breathing space. The email link to how to participate is in the description under the video.